got an amazing cast of panelists here today that we're going to tell you a little bit more about. Before we do that, I want to just give you a quick update on things and thank the panelists for coming. Thank you for coming. Thank our volunteers who helped set this up. And as I said, thanks to Twilio. A lot has happened since our last gathering, which was in February. We have another event coming up on June 25th. But quite a lot has happened. You probably have seen some of it. Lots of publications, lots of articles. But the coolest thing is that we just got a new website. How many have gone to the website? It's pretty cool, right? Did you see the logo? We actually have a professional logo. Like, I did an etch-a-sketch of the original logo. That was like me, okay? I mean, it was like me, myself, and I was running this. But now we have a professionally designed logo by one of my board directors, Nancy Duarte Inc. They're a publication marketing PR company, and they do great work. So a lot of good stuff on the website. We also are launching a number of new chapters this year. So, of course, the Bay Area and Israel were our first chapters, but we're launching in London next month, actually in June. We're not in May yet. And we're launching in Austin, in Portland, and in Seattle this year, and also in the LA, San Diego area. So we'll have 5 new chapters. And then next year, we've already got lined up, and we would launch them this year if we had resources, but we don't. But for next year, Toronto. And we've got 3 organizations that are coming together under the Upward brand. So they are pre-existing organizations coming together under the Upward brand, anywhere between 400 and 500 people just for the Toronto location. So that's huge, right? And then we're launching in New York, Chicago, and Miami next year. So really good progress. I think, we were all having an epiphany moment, right? We're all just saying, a lot of women in the professional workforce, but so few women in the senior ranks, and we need to do something about that. What do you do about it? Well, you come together as a community, and you start proactively helping each other, which is what Upward is all about. Proactively helping each other advance your careers, because it's not going to happen without each other covering each other. I mean, it's a good old girls network, right? Oh, are you good with that? We need a little good old girls network up in here. That's what we got. And just a couple other stats. We're over 1,700 members. We've got over 16 sponsors, some really great sponsors: Ernst & Young, Intel, Morrison Forrester, Microsoft, Gibson Dunn. If your companies are doing anything in diversity and inclusion, send me an email, let me know, because that's how all of these sponsors were acquired. They were acquired by people from those companies attending an event and saying, we should do something, we should get behind this. So that's really good news. We've got 15 events scheduled for this year. Yeah, right, 15. From mentoring clinics to workshops. The next event, the June 25th event, is a workshop. And to topical discussions. We got our big gala dinner event in November, and Sheryl Sandberg is going to speak at that, right? So that's pretty cool, right? We're going to lean in that night, all right? All of us. It's going to be great. She's so gracious to do it, too. She doesn't do many speaking engagements anymore. She's got, a lot going on, but she's helping us out. And then we're doing a private beta right now of a tool called Who Knows. It's basically LinkedIn on steroids, but for private communities. So it's enables you to find who knows who and who knows what. So if you want somebody with a particular expertise, HTML5 or whatever, then you can find them in that network. And if you want to know who knows a person that you want to reach out to, then you can find them in that network. It's a tool that we're going to use in our online database. So it's not just about the events. The events are one way of learning and networking. But we want to have a global database of director level and above, senior professional women that you can access wherever you go. You should be able to walk into any city, anywhere in the world, and find your colleagues, your peers, and again, proactively help each other, proactively engage one another, right? Can we all clap about that? So it's fabulous. I tell you, by the end of next year, we'll be 5,000 members, and we'll probably have 10, 20, 30 chapters by then. And if we are able to hire some more people, we could go faster than that even. So it's really been an amazing ride. All of this has been word of mouth. We've not done one penny of marketing, not one. And so it's just you telling your colleagues who told their colleagues, who told their colleagues, and we're growing. So thank you for your participation. And I'm really excited about the event tonight because we've got these 3 superstar women. Did you read their bios? Their crazy, sick bios? They're crazy. I mean, 3 PhDs, 3 CEOs, founders, brilliant people. They're going to tell you about their backgrounds because I could never do it justice. But we want to spend a little time with them. And the format is I'll ask questions for 30 minutes, and then I'll open it up to you to ask questions for 30 minutes, and we'll get out of here at 8 o'clock so you guys can get home to your families and get some sleep tonight. So that's the plan. If there aren't any questions, we're going to let them do the intros. And by the way, when we go to the audience questions, we do have a couple volunteers to do the mic roaming. We're taping this, so we would like to get your question on the mic so that we can capture it for the video. All of our events are taped, and so you can access them online if you miss them, or you can refer it to a friend. So that's the plan. All right, we're going to start to my left. Danielle, Lisa, and Laura, you go first.
Hi, everybody. I am here because I run a company that's trying to bring access to manufacturing technologies. So there's no reason that manufacturing machines should be large and expensive and out of reach for the rest of us. And so we build small versions of those and try to connect people who maybe want to get something made with an appropriate tool for that. I view this personally as a way for increasing workforce mobility for people who are doing handwork, but they want to learn skills to do manufacturing work and maybe have access to different wage tiers than they usually would. So that's why I work on that. My materials science background is useless as a CEO, except for the fact that I love process and I love efficiency, and I'm having a blast as a CEO. I just gotta say, I think that it was something I was kind of like born to do. Also, we have a factory, and I love factories. I find them so fascinating, and so I had to leave behind the like technical part of what I used to do and embrace the like operations and management, which is like where my true heart was the whole time anyway. But so I love it. I love working in the Silicon Valley. I love the pace of everything, and I'm excited to know that there are women out there.
Doing good things,
That's
doing
me.
big things, right? Absolutely. You know, just a little factoid, so 40% of all private businesses in America are run by women. 40%. Babson College says that by the year 2018, more than half of the jobs created in America will be created by those women-led businesses. I mean, we are large and in charge, right? Now, the challenge is in the Bay Area, it's a little different. And a little different. So that's why I'm so proud of these women, because tech CEOs in America, 97% of them are men. So only 3% in Silicon Valley. 8% of tech CEOs across the country are women. But the numbers are very low there. So we need more of you to come up and do what they're doing, because you can do it. I mean, we've proven that, right? 40% of private businesses, 28% of all businesses in America are run by women. So let's continue. Lisa.
So my thesis actually was on rotating black holes and cosmology, so maybe what I do is a little bit less relevant than material science is still very relevant. Yeah, so I really still love physics and all those other things, so that's my background. But at Kiverdi, what we do is we convert CO2 into oil using the power of biotechnology. And I completely agree. So I remember when we had this idea and I was working on this business and I had my full-time job, and I would, every lunch hour, I'd go and get on conference calls and moving the company forward. After work, go to a co-working space in the Bay Area and just work till midnight and repeat the next day. And at some point I realized that this really was my passion. I was born to do this. I really love building businesses and the specific business that we're building. And for me, the day that I jumped, the day that I decided to quit my job was really a great day. And in fact, we had been chasing funding and all that for quite a while before that. But when I quit my job and started really focusing on it, 3 weeks later we had our first term sheet.
Wow, that's how it's supposed to work, right? Give it a little hand. Here we go. You see how modest they are about their backgrounds? PhD in physics at MIT, right? This one, the one that said physics is in my background, and PhD in material science. I mean, they're super smart. Come on, ladies, talk about yourselves. Laura, your chance.
So I'm Laura Mather, and my PhD is in computer science. My bachelor's is applied math, so I'm a little bit bipolar that way. But I'm a technologist at heart. I worked for the National Security Agency. It was eBay that brought me out here. I was very early in cybersecurity at eBay. After eBay, I started my own cybersecurity company, grew it to 110 employees, talking about creating employee opportunity. When we sold it to EMC, we were protecting 1.5 billion online accounts for companies like Bank of America and AT&T and Apple. At that moment, this was back in 2012, I realized how annoyed I was by the lack of diversity, especially in startups, but in Silicon Valley, in security. And I really wanted to make a difference. And that was right when Lean In came out. And at first I thought I was going to do a networking group or a mentoring group. And I figured, well, Cheryl and Lisa have that nailed, so I don't need to do that. And I solve problems by building technology. So I made this rash decision that I was going to build technology to address diversity. And the awesome thing is there is a ton of research on unconscious bias and how to mitigate it. Right now, it's all delivered through training, which is fantastic, but my premise is, why can't we have the software disrupt the behaviors caused by unconscious bias at the moment those behaviors occur? So that's what Unitive does. We're very early. I have seed funding, but it's kind of exciting to be back in the entrepreneurial world after a couple of years off.
I love that. Yeah, thank you. And tell us, how did you encourage yourself, or how did you motivate yourselves to start companies, right? I mean, there's so many things that you can do. I know you guys discovered that it was your passion, but it's risky to do what you're doing. So, you want to start, Danielle?
Sure. So I will start by saying none of this was my idea. So I came out to the Bay Area to get a job at Tesla and happened to have a lunch meeting with someone who was like, hey, I got this DARPA grant. We're going to make desktop-sized manufacturing tools for the classroom. It's 3 years, $8 million. I want you to run it. And I was like, oh, here's a chance to like not only be one engineer making a difference, but like build tools that would create, you know, thousands or maybe even millions of engineers.
The maker movement, right? It's
yeah,
maker,
totally.
Maker everywhere.
And that was amazing, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna like abandon battery materials and all that and run this program. And then there was like government sequestration. So like we had done it for 1 year, and then there was no 2 and 3 years. But the kernel of what we had created in that 1 year was like, it was so precious, and we had already started seeing how it could affect classrooms and like learning. Like, we're not going to bring shop class back. We're going to bring shop class plus like modern digital manufacturing tools and design tools. And so at that point I was like, this is too valuable. I just have to keep doing it. So we ran a Kickstarter campaign and then like got seed funding and then some Series A funding, and it was just like, I kind of got swept up in this thing that was happening. So it wasn't really me, and it's not my technology, but I just decided it was important enough to like put everything behind it. And if it failed, whatever, I'll go back and work on batteries, but like definitely worth
That's
doing.
a fallback. Everybody has a fallback.
So yeah.
How about you?
So I have 2 suggestions to that. The first is, I think a lot of women let me start over. A lot of men can be overly optimistic about things, where women tend to be more cautious. And that's actually a really great thing, because we need both types of people. So if you are one of the overly cautious people, which I absolutely was, realize that, and then go find one of those overly optimistic people and put them on your team. It might be a man, it might not. But you'll see that you really balance each other out, right? When you need somebody to say, of course this thing's going to the moon, they can do that. And when they need somebody to ground them and say, we are not delivering 1,200 man-hours of software next week, you can help do that. So know your strengths and what you need, and then go find someone to complement you. And then the second thing is, if you are one of these risk-averse people, just have a plan, right? So that's what I did. I said, I have this much money. It will last me this long. This is a great time to start a company, by the way, because if it all goes to pot, there's a ton of jobs out there, right? So like your worst case scenario is not so horrible. I actually did mine in 2008 when it was a little more horrible, but this is a great time. Realize, and this is what I did. Every single day I said, if this all blew up tomorrow, 1, what would I do? And 2, would I have any regrets? And I decided that the minute I said yes, I would have regrets, I was done, right? But you learn so much that I never felt that. So have a plan, figure out how much money it's going to take, put that money aside, realize that, you know, I spent a lot of time thinking, okay, I'm going to give it a year or whatever, and that may delay my retirement eventually by 5 years or something, compounded interest, all that. But I would regret it if I didn't do it.
Yeah, that's very good. Lisa?
Yeah, so for me, it was definitely very much a collaborative effort with my co-founder. So we would just always, we knew each other from grad school, and we were always bouncing ideas off of each other about potential startups or what have you. And, you know, one day we started talking about, you know, he mentioned, you know, what if we use bacteria to convert CO2 into fuel? And I was like, that sounds a little crazy. What are you talking about? But then I started researching it and looking into it, and it actually turns out, I mean, a lot of people don't really think about the fact that a lot of things we enjoy comes from microbes, like wine and beer. These are things that come from microbes. The cheese that we eat, there's microbes in part of that process. You know, biotechnology, that whole field, is making drugs and things that, you know, help us with our health, and those are using microbes. So, you know, once I started studying it and seeing what the potential was, I got really excited. And it, not just with fuel, but, you know, how many of you in here took a shower this morning?
Okay, everybody, please raise your hand.
How many? Oh, you went back. Good. All right, you just extra clean, extra. How many of you went running today or worked out? Okay. How many of you walked on carpet today? I think all of you should probably raise your hand. But carpet is made from oil, from petroleum. It's a key raw material that makes carpet. You know, when those of you that went running and worked out, you know, the polyesters and nylons that make up your running shoes and your jerseys and stuff, all made from oil. If you took a shower, then shampoos, lotions, etc. These have oil ingredients, whether it's a plant-based oil or petroleum, fossil-based oil, in the detergents that we use to wash our clothes. And so when I really got to start thinking about the impact that we could have if we really could figure out a way to convert CO2 and carbon waste, which is abundant, into oil that could be used to manufacture everyday products like nylons and polyesters and the fabrics that make up carpet, that we could have a huge impact. So me and the co-founder, you know, when we you know, realized the potential, you know, I'm very much not the risk-averse person. I said, let's do it. Let's go all out for it. So yeah, that's how we started.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely. Tell me, you know, so in this journey that you're all undergoing, Laura's gone through once, how did you overcome the obstacles? You know, the oppositions, you know, I'll give you a meeting, but I won't give you any money, the, you know, lack of cooperation that sometimes you face when you're in business. What were some of the tricks and tips that you can give this audience on how you dealt with disappointment and challenges?
There's two things for me. One is like fully giving myself over to my husband every single evening.
Now that sounds like fun.
Stress.
I wasn't really going
sadness.
there with the question, but
I know you weren't
okay.
going there, but like seriously, for me, like dealing with the disappointment was having a sounding board of like unwavering support, having a rock there, just being like, but this, and he's like, but yeah, and this, no, yeah, that's good. Like every single day, sort of like fully expressing the extent of my sadness or disappointment, like outwardly, just like get it out and let go of it was really key. And besides that, just like a complete irrational faith that if you wake up every day, you work on something that you care about, that you know is going to help a person, who cares what else happens? So it's like, you know, you cross over from like, there's a volume of things that I can worry about, like I'll worry about this and I can worry about this and worry about this, but then it's like the volume gets so big, you can't even worry about it, so why bother? Just like,
It's just too much to worry about, so forget it.
it's too much. It's like too overwhelming, so you're like, well, it's gonna I'm just gonna take it one day at a time.
That's very good,
Yeah.
very good.
And I would say people in your life, very important. I agree with that completely. But also, for me, looking at obstacles as opportunities has always been important. Opportunities to learn, opportunities to grow, opportunities to come up with a new solution. And when you get, for instance, a no, 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 and you keep pivoting and changing kind of your approach or what have you, and you finally get that yes, it's so rewarding. So being creative and looking at how to get to a solution instead of focusing on, okay, this is a problem, we're not making progress. How do you make progress?
I think that our society, like the media and all of that, really sets up this culture that we feel like we're being judged all the time. And for me, it took me a while to realize that when I failed, mostly people weren't judging me. They didn't really care. Nobody knew. But even if they were judging me, I didn't care, right? And so there really was this aha moment for me a few months in where I suddenly felt like the world came off my shoulders, right? Of like, I'm gonna fail, I don't know how to do this. I seriously felt like the learning curve, like the slope was negative and I was hanging off of it for a while. But that's okay, right? And so a lot of it is realizing how much we're psychologically self-sabotaging and using that to realize that it's okay. And then the other thing I did was another self-awareness thing. So when I get scared that I'm gonna fail, I actually get this physical sensation right here. Some people get it in their stomach, some people get it like the back of their neck or their back. But I started to realize that and look for it. And then whenever I felt it, I would think back to an event where I had had that feeling and I had totally persevered, right? Because having that feeling does not mean you're gonna fail. So if that really helped me of like this physical trigger of, okay, now I'm really scared. And by the way, I felt that once and it was totally fine. So it's not an indication of imminent failure.
Yeah, no, it feels like it at times, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel like you're gonna die? It's like, I'm gonna die right here. I'm sure of it. I'm sure. And then you wake up the next morning, you're not dead, and it's all good. So don't sweat it. Don't sweat it. I could tell you some stories, let me tell you. Anyway, so what about venture capital? So there are a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience and even some investors in the audience. How difficult was it for you, and where you can start, to raise venture capital? What was that drama about?
So for my Series A of my cybersecurity company, I talked to 43 venture capitalists before
43.
Before I got a term sheet. And to be honest, I was ignorant of the fact that a lot of times they were looking at me as a woman and discarding me. I didn't realize that, which was great, because ignorance is definitely bliss in that case. But what I would say now is, I still see it. So I've had this really interesting opportunity to go to VC pitches with other women and be kind of the third party. And what's been really interesting has been to walk in the room, have them look at this woman next to me, not this woman, a woman next to me, and their face drops, and you can tell the meeting's over. Nobody has opened their mouth, but you can tell they have already moved on. And that's fascinating to me. So my recommendation, though, is find someone who actually has empathy for whatever problem you're solving. And by the way, there's a lot of women venture capitalists out there, and they're fantastic, and they're actually a lot easier to work with, in my opinion. I know lots of them. I'm happy to make introductions for people. So that's one way. And I hate to say avoid the males. I hate to say that, but
But avoid the
in
males.
general,
I'll say it.
hard. In general, it's hard, and they have this pattern matching that goes on. And if we want to talk about unconscious bias, we can go there. And you walk in the room and you don't match their pattern, right? And that's just what happens. And women don't have the same patterns.
Lisa?
Yeah, so what I would say is, we focus a lot on family offices in terms of our fundraising strategy. And, I asked one of our investors, why did you invest in us? And, he said, I've made a lot of money over my life. I've started businesses. I've invested in a lot of businesses. And, I think those businesses will have some type of an impact or what have you, but just overall in the grand scheme of things, it's incremental. And I made all this money, but I can't take it with me. And what he liked about what we were doing in particular was something that he thought, and we all believe, and that's why we do it, that it has the potential of having long-term impact. So if you can change the way products are manufactured, if you change the way fuels manufactured, change the whole carbon cycle, then that's a long-term impact. If you can do it in a way that's good for business, then it can be successful and then also be good for the planet. So for us, a lot of our investors actually have that interest in, triple bottom line, as they say. They're interested in, obviously it has to be an investment that is has significant profitable potential, but also something that's good for the planet. So that's been important for us.
Yeah, find people that are sympathetic to your cause, right? Go find a bunch of wealthy people that that know they can't take it with them, and they care about what you're doing. I love that. That's smart. Danielle.
So for me, working in hardware is kind of weird. I imagine it's probably actually similar for you, like high-tech companies. I have 39 investors, and 38 of them are micro VCs and angels, and I found that exactly what you say is true. These people really cared about what we were doing, and they knew that we were going to make an impact. They just didn't know when. So they were looking more of like a restaurant. We're a restaurant to these people, not a lottery ticket necessarily. The thing is we are a lottery ticket. And actually, Lisa passed on an investment with us.
Oh, bad girl. Bad girl.
I only bring that up.
You weren't supposed to bring that up.
Only for a specific reason, is that it's not you, it's them, because
I'm going to explain it. I'm going to let her finish.
Well, investors have different criteria, and it's like dating. And you look a certain way, you do a certain thing, and they have, LPs that they are beholden to, and they have different criteria. And, I just closed the financing on Monday, finally, after 70 some odd meetings with investors.
Woo-hoo!
Yes.
Congratulations.
Oh my God, I'm a new person. And it's about that. It's about finding the fit. So it's really, you keep refining your pitch, keep giving information in the most concise way possible, and you definitely get better at it over time. But it is about the fit, and so you just got to keep after it, because you will find somebody who is as passionate about what you're doing as you are. Sorry,
Excellent.
I called you out.
No, that's all right. I'm going to get you later, though. Okay, so the reason we passed, and it wasn't a pass, it was like, let's stay in touch, which is really lame. I know, it's getting worse. I'm digging the hole deeper, yes. I'm not even going to talk about it now. I'll tell y'all later. Anyway, no, we love them. We love what they're doing. Intel's got this strategic mandate, so it's got to align with our strategy. And we're not doing a whole lot in CNC tools, and so that was the fit. That was the issue. And we generally invest in Series B and C stage. So once you've kind of scaled a bit, but the biggest thing was around the strategic alignment. We looked and we weren't able to find it, but I'm still looking. Still looking. Yes, Laura, save me.
Let me say something about that. So if you do go out fundraising, one of the lessons that it took me a very long time to learn, VCs love to be educated by any entrepreneur. Lisa is obviously the exception, but love to be educated by any entrepreneur. So the way you can tell if they really are interested, because they will act interested, is that if they are willing to do some work themselves. So if they're willing to introduce you to their portfolio companies, if they're willing to sit down with you and go through business plans, but if they keep saying, come back to me with more information, that's what we like to call a soft no.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I've done that, so yeah, don't do it. No, I'm kidding. I don't do that. I really don't. I tell you where we are with the process, so I think that's the right way to go. No soft? No, I'm straight up with y'all. Okay, we're going to go to audience questions, and we have one over in the corner, so be thinking of your questions because it's your time now.
Hi, my name's Diane Gandara. Thank you all for speaking with us today. I was just kind of curious if you could be, just be frank or honest about whether you feel comfortable addressing this question. It's more along the lines of, what do VCs, tell you they're looking for when you're trying to craft a deal? Is it, for a return on their investment? But what do those terms look like? If you could kind of describe some of that stuff to us and why some turn you down. Was it because, some terms weren't attractive, and just some color around that?
So I'll just make one comment on that quickly, is one of the key things that VCs are looking for is the team. Because many people come in with a great idea, but the one thing that's constant in life is change. Technologies change, business plans change, business models change. So if they believe that there's a team that can pivot as necessary, that a savvy team that's works well together, that's creative, that can come up with a solution that'll help them solve the problems and commercialize, then that's very important. They say ideas are a dime a dozen. I actually very much believe that it's all about execution. So team is a key thing that they're looking for.
I like that. Good. There's another question here.
Thanks, ladies. My name is Victoria. So when did you guys feel the need to get VCs, and what point, why? What point were you at?
Laura?
My team did a lot of research first, and one of the things I talk to a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, is I think a lot of people go into it, and Lisa probably sees this all the time, without doing the research of looking at, we took a year where we were still working, similar to you, of who is the competition, how much do we think we could sell this thing for, what's the differentiator, what is what's called go-to-market, right? Am I gonna run into the company's headquarters and talk to people, or are we gonna go through a channel who's going to resell our stuff? We did a ton of work. How big is the market? We had advisors who told us what VCs would want to see and not. Granted, I still had to see 43 of them before they would do anything, but it took us about a year of refining and finding tons of advisors. And Silicon Valley is awesome that way. People are so willing to help you. So go to events like this. Seriously, contact me. I know people who are experts in billions of things, and I'm happy to get you in touch with the right person. And people love it if you're willing to go and learn and say, I don't know, is a $100 million market big enough? No. You don't know. No. I didn't know that, right? I thought it was huge. So just do tons and tons of homework. And then your advisors, if you get good ones, will tell you when you're ready. And that's what happened. We had advisors who said, we will not let you quit your job until there is enough water in the pool, was the phrase they always used. And we trusted them, and they were right.
I think for me, it seems like actually right now there's a lot of seed money out there. So before you have revenue, you're selling a promise, and it's a lot easier to sell a promise than a low number on revenue. So for us, we took a lot of angel up front, and basically I got to the point where we had enough data, and I wanted to start dealing in $2 million checks rather than 25K checks. Because the amount of overhead with dealing with a lot of investors was just different. And I was like, all right, we've got the data, we've got the growth, we're more on the path to cash neutrality is in our horizon, which people say doesn't matter, but it matters.
It does matter.
It matters. After the very first burst of, we love you, it's like, all right, where's the numbers? What is your data? Who are your customers? What dollar of marketing equates in this many leads? It becomes very regimented pretty quickly. And so at the point where we had data, and I was like, all right, we're not selling a promise, we're selling a prospect. That's when we decided to go for VC. It turned out to be the right decision.
Good job. Other questions? Hands up. One front here, and then over. She's going to give you the mic.
Hi, thank you all for being here. My question is, I mean, we all want to check. I'm a tech CEO and I want to check, but it's really about the relationship, and because it's like a marriage. And my co-founder is my husband of 30 years. Okay, so I get that. But so it's nice to pursue money, but where money comes from matters too. What kinds of things did you look at for that? And she told me no too already.
Yeah.
Y'all calling me out tonight.
But no.
I'm the host.
But what she did, she changed my company's direction in 14 minutes. But she clearly said, I invest in the Intel space. Her job is to grow chips for Intel, and you don't do that. And that saved me tons of time and let me walk away from whole lots of corporate venture funds. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, good answer. Good answer.
Yeah.
But how do you, it's more than money, right?
I think you're right about the relationship, and I mean, the Angels, it was fairly easy because they really cared about us. But the VC relationship, it's like I had some gut feelings, actually. Just like I really wanted to take the money. I really wanted like the desire for fundraising to just be over and like just move on with your life it can't be as strong as that feeling in your gut, like I'm gonna have to sit across the room from this person at a board meeting and listen to their terrible ideas for the next 6 years maybe. Like that is really powerful. I think it's super important, and it's kind of not worth it. Like you're gonna do your idea and you're gonna do it with the right people, and otherwise you're signing yourself up for a really difficult journey. It's already hard, but also like having to answer to people that you don't like, way worse than just stopping, I think.
Yeah, so you spend your time pitching, and they're essentially interviewing you also as an entrepreneur, as an executive team is going to build this business. But you should interview them also. You should call the CEOs from their portfolio companies. You should find out what it's like working with them. Call CEOs from former portfolio companies, both successful and not successful. And like you said, it's a long-term relationship. You need them to be partners with you as you need to raise more money in the future. You need them to be at the forefront, making calls for you, making introductions. So whether it's even in your business, if they have business connections, that's useful as a part of your overall decision to work with them.
So when you talk to 43, you don't get to choose. It turned out that worked out great for us. We ended up with great investors. Keep this in mind. For me, it's less about do you really like the person, because the guy who invested in us, he was a pain in my butt for sure, but he was a great investor because what he would do is, for example, we hired our first engineer, we gave him a lot of equity. And the investor's like, oh, I've never seen this happen. What the heck are you doing? But he said, look, if this is what you want to do, you should do it. But the minute things go sideways, I'm coming down on you, right? And that was what he did. He let us make our decisions, where I have had experience with other investors, who I will not name, where we just had very different visions for where the company was going. And when it became clear that we had those differences of visions, huge problems, right? And yet I liked the guy. I thought the guy was pretty nice. Mm-hmm. So it's much more about the alignment of business goals and sort of, one thing, if there's any way you can figure out, can you resolve conflict with that person? Because there will be conflict, right? And so pick a fight. I don't know, but if you can figure out an investor you can resolve conflicts with, that will take you a long way.
The thing about the finding someone that you can find a conflict with, if you call up people who had companies that failed underneath that VC, that is a good way of figuring out how they deal with not rosy situations.
Yeah, be careful in Silicon Valley though. It's so small, people often won't say bad things about
true.
People, so just be really careful. If you can find somebody, by the way, on a different coast, they often will be very honest.
Yes, question.
I just want to congratulate all three of you for fundraising. I know it's really difficult doing it myself, and I know especially your two companies, you needed funding before really you can manufacture, right? And a SaaS product, kind of what you're doing, you can start.
Very different.
Yeah, very different in terms of kind of fundraising. I did do a lot of the research. I got kind of that. Actually, VCs want to buy my research, but they don't want to fund me. So I kind of have some real kind of issues as to kind of like, how do you kind of get over that? I think the family, boy, I'm going to pull up a list tonight when I go home and look at those families. I would love to talk to you more about that because it's really frustrating to kind of go for, the offices. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea to kind of sell people on that. But you know, in terms of where you guys started, I mean, you couldn't do anything. You were kind of flat, right, until you got that money. So there was a real centric kind of issue into doing that. How long was your time frame until you got funding?
For us, I think it's a little bit different because we were funded by all of your tax dollars for 1 year. As a DARPA grant. So we had done some development, and then we actually ran a Kickstarter campaign as like, all right, we've got to get some customers, some feedback about whether or not this is real. So it wasn't.
Can you talk about that, though? Talk about how you filed the DARPA grant and how you won it, and then the Kickstarter approach, because that's a good option.
Yeah, so I was under a different principal investigator who was like, there's an R&D lab in the mission called Other Lab, and they do a lot of R&D, and so there was a reputation there, and so when I joined, that project had already been, like that grant had already been awarded. It's kind of rare. It's a thing that you got to build up over years, but if you can get non-dilutive investment for any period of time, it's really valuable, especially for companies that are like more like a tangible good. But I wish I had the code. I wish I could crack the code for that.
And what about Kickstarter? Just quick on that.
Oh, Kickstarter. Kickstarter is really hard. You have to promise features that you don't know you can create. And so then you have to figure out how to do it and be like, it's okay, no, it's fine, it's coming. So the stress of that is really heavy, but for us it was like, I see Kickstarter as kind of like a last-ditch effort if you're trying to build a company. If you got a product, it's great because then you can get, encouragement, but if you're trying to build something that's pretty big, capital intensive, only as a last resort, unfortunately.
Okay. Other questions? Well, two in the back. Right here.
Hi, I'm Ellen. I am CEO and co-founder of my own mobile startup. And thank you for being here and sharing your thoughts. My question is around the expectation for a women leader to be strong and warm. And I'm just wondering how this played out when you guys were pitching to investors. I'm starting to think that this mythical place of being perfectly strong and perfectly warm just doesn't exist. And I'm just wondering how, if you're explicit and, and being thoughtful about that, or if it's more about just, being your authentic self and just getting out there. So, yeah.
Laura, you want to go? Warm and intelligent?
Yeah. So I did not spend much time thinking about it. I do think I think I would have overthought it, and I wouldn't have come off authentic. And yet I had to talk to 43 VCs, right? So I think, again, look for the VCs who have funded other women because they might see women differently. Women they have different issues, but so I think it's a great question, and to be honest, I don't know how to address that. I think we're in a quandary right now. I hope in 10 years no one will have to ask that question.
Yeah, that's right.
I think
Danielle?
there's also if VCs are pattern matchers and you don't fit the pattern, then the thing that you have to fall back on is personal connection. Like when you walk into the room, like, do you really care about this person? Are you wanting to learn about them as much as they're wanting to learn about you? And I don't know if there's like you should be hard or you should be soft, but it's more like, this is just a person. And the more you can connect with that person, the less they'll have to rely on their background knowledge of what pattern you are, and more like right here and now how they feel about you. I don't know, that was my strategy, I guess. Just being a person that cares about other people. I don't know, that's probably like the answer to every question.
Yeah, so I don't know if my team would call me warm. I'm just trying to think about it. I don't think they would actually, but I think it's all about relationships. I echo that completely. You walk into the office of someone who's never met you before. You're asking them for this large check that hopefully will turn into 10x is what they're looking for. So I focus more on how can I get that investor to believe in me. So who do I know that knows them? Who do I know that can vouch for me, that can vouch for what I've already done in the past and make that introduction? A strong introduction goes a long way. Like not just, hey, meet this person or whatever, but someone who can say, I believe that you should invest in this person and here's the 3 reasons why. So that's something that I definitely leveraged.
Yeah, I interviewed Leah Busk, the CEO of TaskRabbit. Not far from here, actually. And one of the things she said was she got in the Facebook Accelerator program, which helped because that created connections for her. And out of that, because they actually won the contest, and out of that, she met someone else that helped her get a facility where they could begin their business. And then from that relationship, she was able to get somebody who was interested in investing in her. And then that parlayed into another investor. And I mean, so it was 100% of the time for her all about her relationships, which is why this whole, community that we're doing here is so important, because I can guarantee you're going to get a job, or you're going to get some capital, or you're going to get some advice, or you're going to get a partner opportunity through somebody you know. So get to know a lot of folks. And Laura?
Yeah, let me bring this a little bit full circle. So going back to getting advisors, find VCs you think you might want to get funding from. Go to their CEOs that have done well, because those are people they're going to respect. Use them as advisors. Don't get them to make intros to the VCs until they say you're ready, but they can also help you know if you're going to get along with those VCs, right? So there's a really great sort of virtuous cycle there.
I like that. Jess, question. You have the mic.
Hi, I'm Heather Drahian. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My question, thank you all, first of all, for being here. I really appreciate all the insights you're sharing. I'm an entrepreneur and had my own company, and was trying to raise money end of 2008, beginning of 2009, and wasn't able to do it, and ended up having to sell the company. So I'm wondering, from the 3 of you, have you gotten to that point where you almost ran out of money? How did you navigate through it? How did the conversations go with investors when you're kind of coming from sort of that not such a position of strength? I'd love to hear how you navigated that.
None of these women have ever been to the brink of death.
Oh man. Well, it's really nerve-wracking. So the first time I closed funding, I was already in the hole $165,000. So I'd already ran out of money and borrowed some money from a friend, and good friend, which I paid back. And then the second time I had 2 weeks of runway left, and then the third closing I had, which was Monday, I had 3 weeks of funding left. And I met with my co-founder, and I was just like, look, we can either let half of our staff go, or we can push on the gas, because the best thing that we can do is show growth, like show the sales numbers. And there's like this impulse to be like, oh, but if I just paid half as much in salaries, like I could make it another month. But you're like, what you sacrifice in morale and what you sacrifice in your momentum is the thing that kills your company anyway. And so, and I don't know if this is actually good advice actually at all, but this is my experience, is that, I've almost ran out of money a lot.
Your experience is very accurate. I mean, I've got 70 companies in the portfolio. We have a lot that hit the wall, but I've seen some along the way, and the ones that succeed always push through. Mm-hmm. They push through. They find a way. You find a way to get some money somewhere, even if you have to mortgage your house or live off credit cards, or borrow money from family or friends. You find a way to push through. There's something about the process of pushing through a very difficult point in your company that gives you confidence and assurance, and it creates a momentum that you can't get unless you push through like that. I don't know what it is, a reckless fearlessness or what it is, but I can tell you, I know people that have done it, and they didn't eat, they lived off their credit cards, they went through a really difficult time, but the good ones that persevered generally made it out. The ones that got really nervous and started cash conserving and dropping people here and there, you're right, it destroys the company, destroys it. So.
But as a VC, I'm guessing too, if you see someone persevere, you know they're committed to that company. So that's a really good sign as a VC that you would want to invest in that.
That's exactly right. You do get confidence.
And this goes back to interviewing your investors. So you want to know if these are investors that are going to be with you through these different times in the life of an early company. So yeah, one of the things that you want them to do is to be able to reinvest. So yep.
It's good stuff. One last question. This is our last question.
I want to hear more about the women angel investors and VCs that you've talked to and what types of ideas they're looking for right now, and also the sizes of funding that you've seen out there with them.
Yeah, so, well, we have one here, so she could talk about it.
And I'm going to talk to you about a fund that we're launching too. So
yeah, there you go. But actually, I see them across the whole spectrum. So, I talked to I think it's called SV Angels, and it's a group of women who are doing investing, and they'll do sort of smaller seed stuff. I have a friend who invested in my last company, and her fund is Aligned Partners, and they do up to like 2 million, so essentially kind of an A. And then I was talking to Sharon Weinbar the other day, and she's at Scale, and so they do the bigger rounds. So it runs the gamut, which is awesome. So kind of any stage that you're at is great. I will say most of the people I talk to are in the software space because I'm in the software space, but I'm sure there are other women VCs out there in the other spaces. And these people are becoming more and more prominent, right? Teresia just jumped off, and they've done up.
Aspect Ventures, yep.
Yeah, and then there's Cowboy, so there's a bunch
Frontier,
of them. So lots of them are out there now, which is awesome. So go find them, find out what their philosophy is. Some of them, like Scale, told me we look for you have to have lots of deals, which is great to know, right? And then and some of them just want an idea and a great team, but they're not going to put as much money in, but that's okay.
All right, good. Okay, we're going to wrap up. Aren't they great? Give them a big hand. Woohoo! That's fabulous. And thank you all for coming out. I do have news, so maybe a couple of you know. I can't talk about all the details, but we are launching a diversity fund at Intel Capital that I'm going to lead. It's a very large fund, along with all those other great female-led investment houses. Intel Capital is going to be doing this, investing in women and minority-led tech companies across the U.S., and we're going to do a formal announcement, big press conference on June 9th, so keep your eyes and ears open for that day because there's going to be a lot more to come. But tell your friends, tell your colleagues, tell everybody to come our way. Now, I'm going to caveat it with, we're a strategic investor, so we do look for strategic, and we typically invest in B to C stage companies. So we're not going to get in seed. We do a little A, but a dabble here or two. It's more like, it's the problem of dancing with an elephant, right? I mean, Intel's so big, and then if you're like a 5-person startup, the strategic engagement is not meaningful. So that's the qualifier. But we always stay in touch with companies and CEOs that we really like. And so though we haven't invested in these 3 women, amazing women, we may at some point down the road. So be patient, but look out for us because we're definitely going to be supporting this community and supporting minorities across the U.S. So it's a good thing. Okay, with that, thank you and have a good night.